Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. October is Virginia Wine Month, and growers are hoping to celebrate despite a difficult year. Fall is not the best time to trim your boxwoods and other shrubs. And the pandemic shut down most outdoor sports this year. Virginia turfgrass managers have struggled to keep their fields green.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from New Kent Winery, where they're welcoming visitors to their tasting room again. BURKE MOELLER reports it's been a tough year to raise grapes in the Old Dominion.
It's been a challenging year for wine producers, and not just because of the pandemic. Vineyard operators have dealt with more than one killing frost during the spring and more rain than usual during the growing season. But Virginia vintners are resilient, and the last thing they're going to do is whine about it. 2020 has been a challenge on so many fronts, and Virginia wine producers are feeling it just like the rest of us. Problems associated with the pandemic are obvious. Wineries, along with just about every other business, were closed to the public earlier this year. But in many ways, the weather has been an even bigger hurdle.
A lot of wineries lost between 20 and 40% of their crop because of the frost.
According to the Virginia Wine Board, there were 7 frost incidents scattered around the state this spring.
We had 4 separate frost issues, and unfortunately they were spaced out enough where they really did the maximum damage. So for us here on site, we lost most of our grape production.
It's also been an incredibly wet growing season, but the frost early on made it hard to even get started.
Well, the frost actually kills your production. So, the rain and the lack of rain are factors when you actually have grapes and you have a viable crop. The frost actually keeps you from having a crop at all.
Which doesn't mean they don't have a lot of grapes to produce next year's wine, particularly white grapes. Winemakers work with the previous year's crop to produce the current year's vintage. White says they won't feel the loss of production for the red wines for a few more years. The vineyards that manage to raise usable grapes this year will be able to charge a premium.
I expect that the contract price is going to go up, which is going to push an additional burden on the business.
Wineries usually compete against each other for customers and grapes, but during 2020 they found ways to put that aside.
All the wineries in Virginia have been working together. We've been having lots of meetings, and we've just been trying to do a really good job of making sure that our employees stay safe, our customers stay safe.
Many wineries are promoting agritourism opportunities to help offset the loss of income from lower production. After all, there are few things more relaxing than visiting a winery in autumn. Winery owners want people to know there are plenty of indoor and outdoor spaces available to have a safe day trip.
The guidelines have changed a lot since the original shutdown. We've created a very safe environment. We are going above and beyond all the CDC guidelines. I know many wineries that are doing the same thing. Obviously, they want to take their own health conditions into account, before they come out. But this is perfectly safe. It's just as safe as going to a Virginia ABC store.
Virginia has 42,774 square miles dedicated to wine production, with 312 wineries in the Commonwealth. While many consumers still think of California when it comes to premier American wines, America's oldest wine grape, the Norton, hails from Virginia. In colonial times, winemaking wasn't just encouraged, it was mandated by law. 12 years after the Jamestown settlement was established, the Virginia House of Burgesses passed Act 12, requiring each male colonist to plant and tend to at least 10 grapevines. And in 1773, the Virginia Wine Company, consisting of, among others, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and George Mason had a 2,000-acre vineyard near Monticello in Albemarle County. There may not have been enough grapes this year, but there's still plenty of work to be done to keep a vineyard producing.
You have no fruit, but you have just as much labor in the vineyard because the grapes wants to put all of their energy and effort, instead of ripening grape berries themselves, they're instead putting all the effort into the vines. So the vines are growing aggressively and more out of control than they had been if they had fruit hanging. So it takes just as much work, if not more, to basically keep that vineyard in check and healthy this year, so that next year, because everybody's looking forward to 2021, it will be much better and will be healthier. If we let it go out of control, they would be a little stressed next year in terms of the fruit production.
Grapes need a high natural sugar content to develop flavor. A rainy summer in Virginia has washed away hopes for a stellar season, but winemakers are still hoping for a good vintage from this year. Virginia wine sales are down 12.8% for January through June of this year compared to the same time last year. Winemakers are hoping this fall's wine celebrations can help make up some lost ground.
12.8%, it could have been so much worse. We're actually thankful that it wasn't worse. And then because wineries have a lot of open spaces, and people are really, after they've been stuck in their houses for a long time, they're looking for things to do, and wineries are an excellent alternative to get out of your house and go someplace where it's safe.
Virginia's wine producers are ready to move on from 2020 and hoping for a rebound in 2021. That's a sentiment we can all raise a glass to. In Spotsylvania County, I'm Burke MOELLER reporting.
Virginians have been trying to grow good wine grapes since colonial times, but the modern Virginia wine industry didn't really get some traction until 1976, when Italian winemaker Gianni Zanin and 5 other winemakers came to the Charlottesville area, planted a disease-resistant variety of grapevine known as Vitis vinifera. The grapes thrived, and that gave the industry the kickstart it needed. Today, there are 312 vineyards in the Old Dominion, with more opening every year. Virginia wines take gold medals every year in international wine competitions.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, I'm going to tell you when not to prune your boxwoods. Stay with us.
We're stronger together, especially at this difficult time. For over 90 years, we've watched our membership grow, and we're honored to be part of such a special community. Thank you to the farmers who provide for us every day. Virginia Farm Bureau is proud to serve our members, their families, and to give back to our local communities. That's the Farm Bureau way.
Fall is not the right time to prune your boxwoods or other shrubs. Mark Viette explains why in the garden.
By the time the end of August, September, October rolls around, those are months that you do not want to prune your boxwoods. Now, you can always prune out dead, damaged, diseased parts of your boxwood, and there's certain things you have to take into consideration when you do that. But general pruning, and the reason is it's been a hot summer, lots of rain, we haven't had a chance to get in the garden. We walk out and we go, oh wow, I forgot to prune my shrubs. And here's an example of a boxwood that has some growth, but it is not the time of year to prune it in the fall. Because if you do, then let's prune it. First of all, I don't like hedge trimmers, I like hand trimmers. So we're just going to come in here and prune this like this. And we still have 1 or 2 months of new growth to occur. That new growth that's going to come up is going to look like this. And here's an example of last year's new growth that was frozen in the fall or winter. New growth in the fall does not have enough time to get hardened off. So it's soft, tender, succulent. You can move it, you can bend it, you can even pinch it off with your hands. It is too late to prune your boxwoods. Now, if for some reason you needed a little bit for a flower arrangement, you can go in and cut a piece here or there. That's great. But overall shearing of your boxwood is going to get a lot of new growth and it's going to freeze. And there's one other plant that this happens to a lot also. And let's take a look at that one. Taxus, or commonly known as yew, is a foundation plant around many of our homes. Please keep in mind that the yews do not like wet feet or waterlogged soils. A lot of times it comes off the house or the gutter system. But if you were to come in now in the beginning of fall, late summer, and shear this, you're going to get a lot of new, young, tender growth like this. And it's going to freeze. Here are some examples of some freeze damage from last year. And normally, it's going to look like this by January. And if you put that up, just imagine your whole yew being covered with this ugly, browning, damaged growth. Again, if you have a dead, dying piece, you can take a hand shears and prune it, but now is not the right time to prune your yews. If you absolutely have to do some pruning or shearing in a garden in the fall, you have to be careful. Remember, pruning or shearing injures plants. What does plants do then? Immediately, they start to grow. So this is not the shears you want to use because you're going to be cutting off so much foliage that plant's going to get shocked in producing new growth. So don't use the hedge trimmers. But if you have to, you can use a hand pruners where you're going to come in, and I am cutting less than 5% of this plant. So I'm not going to get all that new growth that is going to succumb to winter freezes or frosts. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley. Coming up on Heart of the Home, some delicious Brunswick stew. Stay with us.
And now, a sneak peek into a day in the life of a Virginia dairy cow. They get their day started. They have some lunch. Get some exercise. Spend time with their friends. And then end their day with dairy sweet dreams. Real dairy, real life, real delicious.
Fall, the perfect time for homemade Brunswick stew. Chef Tammy Brawley has her own recipe for this seasonal favorite from the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Tammy Brawley with The Green Kitchen, and we're here today with a special outdoor edition of Virginia Heart of the Home at Old Tavern Farm in New Kent. We are here today to make you some delicious Brunswick stew. Age-old argument between Virginia and Georgia as to who makes the best, but I personally think Virginia. We've got a pan warming, and we're going to add a little bit of olive oil to it. How much olive oil? Well, that depends on how big your pot is, or pan. Enough to cover the bottom. And now we're going to add some chopped onion to that. Move that around just a little bit, not very much. And to me, this is where the easy part comes in. I like to dump everything in together and let it cook for about a half an hour, 45 minutes or so. So what we've done here is we've got the onion sauteing. We're going to add some chicken. If I wanted to take the time to chop that, I could. I'm just going to leave it in the pieces that it's in. The great thing about this is that, one, you can buy rotisserie chicken, break it down yourself and chop the meat, or some of your local stores will have it already ready for you. Dump that right in. We've got about 2 cups of tomatoes here, diced tomatoes. And now we have our vegetables. And the difference between, I should say, of soup and a stew is usually potatoes. In this case, we've got some diced potatoes, lima beans, and some corn. And add those. I'm going to go ahead and give that a stir. Now I'm going to add about 3.5 to 4 cups of chicken stock. Remember, it's going to cook down a little bit, so if you do feel like you've over added it, don't worry. It's going to simmer and cook down. And then if you feel like you need more at the end, you can certainly add that. So that's about 3 cups or so. We'll stir that up. And now we'll add our seasoning. We've got some crushed red pepper, gives it just a little bit of a kick. And a little salt. A little black pepper. And then something that makes Brunswick stew is some sugar. So we've got some white sugar to add in there. Stir that up. This is going to take anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to cook down a little bit. It's going to be absolutely delicious. All right, so it's been about a half an hour, 45 minutes. Our stew has cooked down perfectly. We're going to put it into our serving bowl. And there you have it, a delicious bowl of warmth. We hope you'll enjoy the Brunswick stew, and we hope you'll join us again on Virginia Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website, greenkitchenrichmond.com.
Brunswick County, Virginia and the city of Brunswick, Georgia compete for bragging rights for creating Brunswick stew. In reality, it may have had its origins in the city of Brunswick in northern Germany. It's said that stew was a favorite of Queen Victoria. A tomato-based stew originally made with squirrel, today's dish usually features chicken or rabbit meat, although lately some cooks have included pork or even pulled pork barbecue. Whether cooked in stainless steel trays or the traditional iron pot, all stew masters say the dish isn't done until it's so thick the paddle stands up in the pot by itself.
Growing good turf grass has always been a challenge in Virginia. Ricky Gibson reports turf managers are struggling to adapt with changing sports schedules and shutdowns this year.
When the COVID-19 shutdown hit last March, spring sports were just getting started. The lockdown forced turfgrass managers to switch around their maintenance programs. Typically, spring sports start when grass is still dormant, but now managers are hoping to have fall sports next spring, which means changing how the fields are seeded.
We're looking at overseeding with perennial ryegrass to build a green base, and we're going to have to, and that's something we haven't done a lot. And if we do it, it's done at this level. Now we're going to have to take it to this level. So where we were putting out 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet of perennial rye, we're probably looking at 15 to 20 pounds of perennial rye on our high school fields, which is a very high number. You know, you look at colleges and professional, that's a typical number, but for us, that's tremendous. You know, so that's an expense that we have to make a decision for now with the uncertainty, depending on how things shake out.
At the same time, turf managers are adapting to COVID-19 protocols that restrict how staff work, even outdoors.
So that's been a real challenge to maintain turf grass with less people at times, or a lot of times if people were undergoing COVID protocols, having to leave, and then at the same time, you know, managing in a clean, safe environment, right? Just like any industry, our people are the foundation and the only thing that really matter at the end of the day, as well as the service we're providing. So we do have to make sure we're working in a clean, safe environment.
Turfgrass management is considered part of the Virginia's green industry. Along with nursery products, it represents close to 10% of Virginia's agricultural sector. In 2007, turf management accounted for 11% of the green industry, with an economic value of more than $129 million. With the growth of suburbs, office parks, golf courses, and sports fields over the past decade, turf management has become an integral part of keeping those green areas healthy.
Today, I think as sports turf managers and also just people who are stewards of anything of public money, the goal is to make sure every dollar you spend is worked to its max potential. Because in the end of the day, for me, it's about education, and I've got to put the maximum effort into education, and then if I can, use that same money to teach a kid how to do what we do out here.
We're mowing at super low heights of cut, less than 1/8 of an inch at times on the putting greens. And so, the golfers desire firm, smooth, fast putting surfaces for golf. And so what we had to do at times was raise that height of cut a little bit. The higher height of cut we could go, we could actually maybe have a little bit more focus on turfgrass health and not so much on playing quality. But because of short staff, maybe we did things like you saw today where we mowed with a triplex mower instead of hand mowing. Maybe we used a machine to rake bunkers as opposed to hand raking.
Turfgrass professionals say demand for quality outdoor recreation experiences has never been higher. And this year, golf has been leading the way.
I know my nephews are young amateur, aspiring golfers, and the opportunity to go out and drive a golf ball was like a treat for them because they've been stuck in the house. So I think COVID has really made people appreciate the outdoors and embrace outdoor activities whenever they can.
The nice thing about golf during COVID is in the state of Virginia, it was basically able to continue throughout the whole time. So we never saw a lapse in golf. In fact, we saw a real increase in golf. With more free time, less options outside of golf, golf has never been busier in the state of Virginia, which is a good thing.
Whether it's mowing, watering, taking soil samples, fertilizing and seeding, managing sports turf requires constant attention and hard work. That's part of the job, and turf professionals embrace it.
Golf course maintenance is a 24/7 job, and it includes early mornings, late nights, and weekends. So, it's a wonderful industry. You get to be outside, you get to work with your hands. Really, your work is reflected right in front of you every day. But COVID did present some unique challenges, and just like the weather, just like a lot of challenges that golf course superintendents face every day in their teams, I think golf course superintendents in the state of Virginia tackled them head on and really came out better on the other side.
I think it helped the industry in the sense that people truly appreciated having a green space that they took for granted before. I think when people were locked in their homes, the first instinct was the opportunity to get out with my family. It's a great opportunity, and we saw that. I mean, I saw folks out playing frisbee and soccer and things on our campus that you typically didn't see, although somewhat challenging because as sports field managers inherently are very possessive of their spaces. And the reason is because they take pride in making them look nice. And then when they have outside traffic that you don't anticipate, I think it forces you to step back as a sports field manager and say, this isn't my space, it's everybody's space.
The next time you swing a golf club at a course or watch a football game, it's worth remembering that science and skill are needed to keep those green spaces going. In Hanover County, Virginia, I'm Ricky Gibson.
We're so glad you could join us this week to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
There are 30,000 roadway accidents each year involving cars and farm machinery. Farmers will be moving equipment for planting and harvest season. The slow-moving vehicle triangle in red and fluorescent orange colors and flashing lights allow for quick identification. When you see an SMV sign on farm equipment, slow down, prepare for sudden stops and slow turns.
Patience will save lives. Just remember, we all need to share the road, we all need to be responsible, and we need to be guided by the law.
Motor vehicle safety starts with you.